hoping to keep their way of life intact while figuring out how to thrive in a modern world. The Palawan are an indigenous ethnic group of the Palawan group of islands. There have been many stories of them being taken advantage of, since most of them never learned to read or write. Because of that, education has never been more important, to be able to uphold their lands and keep their way of life. That's how the opportunity at the Jungle School came about. It's easy to live in a bubble, oblivious to the environment around us. Surround yourself with people who are doing the work and trying to make a change, using their creativity to tell stories that make an impact. Let's get into it.
I used to be the food editor for Esquire, and I did a lot of kind of like written work. And it's something that has kind of helped me throughout this journey in terms of social media storytelling. And I really think that it is the key to everything. So having amazing cameras and having incredibly powerful tools obviously helps with the convenience of everything in terms of exploring and showcasing your creativity. But at the core of it, anything that you see on social media or the work that we do, at the core of it is a well-told.
And it has cameras. And so when I was starting, I just used my cell phone to do a lot of my photography. This is all shot with my phone. And I'll just travel across the world and just take shots with my cell phone. Because I literally didn't have any of these budgets, right? I didn't have any budgets. But when I was growing up, my mom would, or my parents would teach me, there's this Bible verse in the Luke that says, if you're faithful to little things, you'll be faithful in much. And so I was told that if I'm faithful to whatever I have, I'll be given opportunities to do more. And so even though that's kind of churchy and religious, I think it makes sense. Anyone who is faithful, right? A little bit too much. Yeah. Okay, I'll tone down a little bit. I think if we're really using what we have, I have this problem, especially growing up as a photographer and a filmmaker. I think that many of us have this idea that we will have a better result if we have better gear. And I don't think that necessarily true. It might be true, but I think that if you're faithful with whatever you have, and if you get upgraded, you can do more. Right? And so I started my phone. I was very faithful with whatever I have, and this is all shot just with my phone traveling around. And so today, I really believe that you can just go around in the internet and find information. So today we'll go to the route of inspiration. I really believe that there's value in inspiring people instead of just giving them information. And so today I'm going to share with you how I just started my photography, and hopefully it will give you some idea to what you do in your own field. So my tip number one is you start your own photography journey. Who here have started your own photography journey? Jamie, the guy with the ID, Jamie, he has a camera and also a drone. He has a Fujifilm. So the first thing that I believe when I was started with this idea to choose my own subject. What subject do I have and want to start with? Now, there's this very cliche idea, but really has helped me in my photography journey, and that is the question, what makes you feel alive? When I was starting my photography, I asked myself this question, what makes me feel alive? What makes me feel like having this amazing stoke, right? Whenever I start my own photography journey. Now, the question that you need to ask yourself as you start is, does this subject move me to think, to feel, or to dream? Now, many young people today, when they start their own photography, the first question they ask themselves is, will I get income from it? Now, if you start with that mentality, photography will not be sustainable. You will eventually invest in a gear, buy a gear, and then as soon as you don't get money from it, you sell it. You see that pattern? I've seen this a lot with a lot of people who started with photography. They do photography with this idea that, oh, I'll get famous on the internet, or I'll get enough money. Sadly, that's not the case. When you're starting, when did you make money? Not much, right? I'm sure, right? So if if you start with that motivation, photography, filmmaking, whatever it is, it will never be sustainable. So if you start with that mentality, do not buy a camera because you'll be wasting money. So when I was starting, I was really asking myself, what makes you feel alive? That was the first question I have in my mind. It was Ansel Adams who says, if the photograph brings me excitement, most of the time it will make a good photograph. And I really believe that. If you're not excited, if the things, the subject that you do does not make you feel alive, you will make a crappy photograph. Photographs that are really good comes from the internal urge of joy and ecstatic nuclear happiness, right? And that's what when I was starting, that's what I'm always trying to find. Does this make me feel alive? Growing up, I didn't really like reading. I hate reading. But I'm always in the library. And growing up in elementary school, I always go to the library, not because I want to read, but I want to see National Geographic pictures. And exploration really makes me feel joyful and alive. And so when I was starting, I would go invest on travel a lot. And take photos around the world of animals, of birds. I really like photographing birds. Cats, I'm really obsessed with lions. And so I'll go to Africa, even though I didn't have income with it, right? I'll just take photos of lions, and photographs, all these cool animals from the safari, because it makes me feel alive. And I'm just giving you some set example. And by the way, this part is me just telling you guys what makes me feel alive and the thought process that I have whenever I take some of these pictures. I need to rush through it because I don't really have enough time. I love exploration. Tribes, I love taking photos of them. I love we live with J and I lived with them aside for 3 weeks, and we ate their food, we did all these things, and it always makes me feel alive whenever I shoot these subjects from around the world. So you need to find that in you. What makes me feel alive? Not what gives me income. So I was more focused on the outcome than the income. And I think that's what makes photography more sustainable. Right? You're not gonna waste. If you don't have that mindset, I promise you, you'll be wasting so much money. And so this makes me go. I went to Ukraine during the war, photographing there, and this is some of the pictures that I have when I was there. And this was a crazy, crazy story, which I didn't have time to tell you guys. We have a bus in Ukraine, and that means from Germany, we would drive from Germany, that's 30 hours to Kyiv. We would fill up the bus with food, drop the supplies to Ukraine, and fill it up with people, and bring them to Germany. This was during the war, so we'll go there. It's kind of weird, but this makes me super alive. Right? I was the only brown kid entering Ukraine. Right? All these Ukrainians were like, why are you here? Oh, I'm gonna go to the war zone. But anyway, so I went photographing into Ukraine, just trying to photograph the aftermath of what the Russians did. And maybe some of you guys are asking, why are you doing this? When I was 17 years old, I had a tumor in the left side of my brain, and I was healed from that when I was 21. And so from then, my commitment was, you know what, I'm just gonna full send and do what I love to do. I don't care if I get paid or not, I'm just gonna full send, right? So our experience might be a little bit different, but that's why I go to war zones and all these places. I went to North Korea, went to all these places because I love exploration. This is what makes me, even though I'm not paid doing it, I will still do it, right? And so I also love looking at leading lines and patterns. When you're starting with your photography, start finding these things. This makes me really excited. Looking at lines, even though it's very simple, you can find lines, you can find patterns. This makes me super excited. And so even though this is a very simple, I don't know if this is Wuhan, China, but this was in China, but this is a very simple bridge, but I'll just find a line, right? Take photos of it. This is very helpful for me. Even though I'm now full-time more, I think I'm doing more videography than photography. I still try to find lines in my films. I really like lines and patterns. So you see, everywhere there's lines and there's lines. I'm obsessed with lines. Right? I take photos always with lines. Right? Lines there that lead somewhere. Patterns. Sorry, there's so many photos. Anyways, so patterns and patterns and patterns and lines. I'm obsessed with it. Right? I also like disrupting patterns. So when you take photos, try to find a pattern and try to disrupt it, right? So there's that pattern of white, right? And then I disrupt it with colors, yellows or red. It makes a really nice photographs and it makes me very, very excited. I also like trying to find landscapes, and I love it. This is one thing I really love the most. I love to chase light. And I think that's what photography is about. Photography is really the art of finding light. And I'll show you some of the examples of this. This one is very special because we hike in the night in winter. And it's all about just trying to find, like this was in Burma, trying to find beautiful lighting. This was in Negros, in Canlaon. Very beautiful lighting. In Sipalay. I also like astrophotography, trying to find out. Photography is very sustainable to me because even though I don't have any income, and I can be hungry as long as I'm shooting what I love. And probably this is because I don't have a daughter to feed, unlike everyone. But I can go on a hunger strike as long as I'm doing what I love to do. Now that's a really bad tip. You'll have to serve. Don't do that. So I love doing photography in light, just like this, just playing along with light. I'm fast forwarding now, so I don't know why I put so much photos. Alright? There we go. So it's all about lighting. It's all about lighting there. Northern Lights. So this is funny, I spent 1 week in a Rand in Norway because we couldn't afford a hotel. We just lived there, eat crackers, and buy pancit canton. It's cheaper in the Philippines. So fill it up fill your bag, luggage with pancit canton, go to Iceland and eat that for the whole week. It's not sustainable because you have kidney troubles. But there's also one thing that I want to share to you guys. And I think that sometimes we kind of overlook this part, and that is the part of patience and endurance. A lot of the time when we do a lot of our photography, it takes a lot of patience and endurance. And I'll tell you why as we move forward. But most of the photographs, and I think my favorite photographs, have come because of real hard work. Sometimes one photograph, you could dedicate 1 day to a week just to get and capture one. And this was life for me for the past maybe 6-7 years, just living out of the suitcase in 52 countries, just packing everything down. And this literally, I lived here for the past 5 years, that bad. The past 5 years, I lived in that bag. Traveling around, looking like a homeless person in different places around the world. Let me give you a little example. Have you seen a moon rainbow before? It's called a moonbow. Moonbow is really, really difficult to find. You go to Niagara, sometimes there's moonbow. But most of the time, there needs to be a certain angle in the moon that it needs to shine on the mist of the waterfall. And so this was a very remote waterfall in Zambia. It took us 1 week of travel to go here. And I remember not showering for 1 week because we were driving. The smell was, this is too much information. Yes, okay, we're not gonna go there. But anyways, you get the point, right? But that specific one picture took me about a week of effort just to go to a specific place. So, money shot, yes. Even though I haven't really sold this one. Right. What I'm saying is that if you want to enter into photography without the mentality of sacrificing time, effort, and money, I'll just discourage you not to do it. Right? Because it takes really much time and effort to create craft. I think we're living in a social media world where cat videos are millions of views, right? And so I want to do that, right? And we measure success based on the views. But again, that's also something that is not very sustainable. for me, it's really what does it do to me? What does it make me feel that makes it very sustainable? And so we've literally lived in a Land Cruiser for 1 week. There are photos like that I could tell you the amount of effort given just to get one photograph. This was in Tanzania. We had to climb up this piece of rock that looks like a nacho chip, a Dorito, and spent a whole 2 days just to find a specific spot. There were Rainbow Mountains in Peru during winter. This was that color when we arrived, and we waited for hours in the dead of winter just to get that shot. If you don't have that endurance, you will never get the shot you want. So it's all about that waiting and waiting. And I believe that most of, and I think Erwan would agree with that too. Like, I think most of the crafts that we do in videography takes a lot of time and effort and waiting. One of my favorite shots was shot in Broome, Australia. It took me 2 days to capture, to wait for the right spot. Not this shot. We lived in this van for about a month, and then we specifically put a time to go to Broome, Australia, to capture this shot. It took me 2 days just to get that shot. So, why am I saying this? I can teach you how to frame the shot, but you can YouTube it. Right? I can teach you how I graded it. I'm pretty sure you can YouTube it. But the reality is, you can't YouTube waiting. You can't YouTube dedication for the craft and say, oh, if you want to do that, this takes so much time and effort. And sometimes it might be risking your life a little bit. So some of these shots, like this one, I think it took us a lot of planning just to get that shot, right? And you know, VJ is here, he's probably the second one, but it took us a lot of, a lot of planning. What I'm saying to you guys this afternoon is very simple. Follow your stoke. Whatever it is that makes you feel alive, do it. And I promise you, it will be sustainable for you. Don't chase clout or money, chase what it does to you in your heart. And I promise you, it will be sustainable. Someone said, attention is the new currency. And sure, I think right now we measure people by people's attention to video or photo. This was my struggle because most of the photographs, imagine going to Africa for 1 week, not having a shower, and only have 100 likes. It's kind of discouraging sometimes, right? But I really believe that how it does to you and how it affects you, how it molds you, matters more than your traction in social media. But I'll add to that a little bit more. I think what it does to your community and to the people around you matters more than the attention you get from social media. Right? This is the preacher side of me. So. I think what you do to your community, your art, how it impacts you, and how it impacts your community matters more than the attention you get from the internet or any media outlet at all. I really believe that. And my challenge for you guys today is, as you make your art, do your art, I challenge you to think and first ask yourself the question, how does this or will this impact the community around me? Let me give you a little example of this and kind of the spoiler of what we filmed with Erwan in Palau. I was full-time traveling for the past 8 years and COVID came. Remember COVID? Remember you forgot? No? COVID was miserable. So I couldn't travel anywhere. The only time and place that I could go is the USA. This was probably one of the only places that are open this time. And during this time, there's this MMK moment. I fell in love with a white girl from California. It's a beautiful girl from California. She's getting married soon. So please don't post this. I'm not into her anymore. Alright, I wanna cry. Anyways, I'm joking. So I fell in love with this chick, right? amazing girl. And then I thought maybe I'll visit her in California, surprise her. So I bought a ticket for 80,000 pesos to go to California. Expensive, dude. Surprise this girl on her birthday. I arrived in California, San Francisco. The guy said, wait, how can you afford to travel in 50 countries for the past 3 years? You don't, literally, they said, you don't look like you can afford it. Well, I can't blame him, you know? Look at this guy, he's rich. I'm not rich. So I couldn't go anywhere. He said, oh, we can't let you in the US, you don't look like you can sustain yourself in the US, and all that stuff. Long story short, they sent me back to the Philippines for the first time. Point to point, right? We sent back, they were sent me back home. Anyways, I was in the Philippines, struggled with a lot of depression for about 4 months because I couldn't travel anywhere. And my identity as a traveler is no longer there. I couldn't travel. So I received a message from a good friend. His name was Daniel Louis. He's a helicopter pilot up in Panama, where Erwan and I visited. He said, Jasper, look, I have a helicopter, and I use my helicopter as a helicopter pilot. I would travel around Palawan in the remotest parts of the island, and I would rescue people from the mountains because the hospital is so far, the locals need to hike up to 8 hours just to go to the nearest hospital. So I use the helicopter and rescue people for free. Come join me, just take photos. Right? So I will come. Again, what was that idea a while ago? How can I use my talent to impact the communities around me? Right? Not just for attention, but the communities around me. How do I impact them? And so I said, hey, look, I'll come with you, man. I'll take photos of your helicopter, about your rescues. This is Daniel. We will do supply runs. He was also a paramedic, so we will document that also. He's doing this for free for 7 years, not paid at all. Again, we're talking about sustainability, right? This guy loves and by the way, he's American, Chinese American. He's not even Filipino, but he loves the people so much that he's willing to do it for free to serve the locals in the jungles of Palawan. This was a photo that I took of a lady giving birth in the helicopter. I've never seen anyone giving birth. It was in a helicopter. It was the most traumatic thing ever. Seeing someone come out of some other person. It was mind-blowing. Anyways, too much information. So I would capture them. The wife is also a doctor, so she'd go around in the jungles with Daniel. We have a dentist who would hike with us in the jungles and do all these in different jungle communities in Palawan. Unfortunately, the bad news is, a few months ago, we still don't know if they crashed or what, but we lost that. For many months now, we don't know where he is. There's a possibility he crashed in the Sulu Sea. He was carrying 4 more patients, 3 patients and 1 nurse. So unfortunately, that's what happened. It was still a struggle for us to where Daniel the helicopter is. We're praying for positive news. During this time, I had a call as a pastor, again, to go back to the US, San Diego, to be a pastor. So I was really struggling if I should really become a pastor again, or should I do this full-time photography thing? And I think this is very valuable, and I'll tell you what happened during this time. A friend of mine messaged me, and he said, Jasper, then I asked him, hey, look, should I be a pastor or stay with Daniel in the jungles and do all these things, right? And then he told me, look, if you're confused in what to do, just ask yourself the question. And I think this is very valuable. He said, ask yourself a question. What breaks your heart? That was the question. What breaks your heart? Because usually what breaks your heart is what God has told you to do. That was the question I asked. And I said, okay, what breaks my heart? Is it just financial security? Is it finding a job? Or is it helping kids in the school who's getting married at the age of 12? Because in the jungles, kids getting married at the age of 12, 10 years old, 13 years old, it's crazy. You see kids taking care of kids. You know, and locals would hike up to the nearest hospital just to go and have checkup. Mothers and fathers, they go around, don't know how to read and write until they get cheated upon in the market when they sell their produce. it broke my heart. And so guess what? Spoiler alert. Instead of getting the job in the US, I quit everything, lived in the jungles for 1 year. So I stayed with Daniel for almost 1 year, just living in the jungles, photographing what's happening there. So I take pictures of them, post it on my social media with what's happening. And these are the photographs. This is very special because this really changed my life, these people in Palawan. And many people say, oh, you help the people in Palawan. It actually them who saved me, really. And found my purpose just in the jungles of Palawan. This was one of my first, I had this idea, and I posted this on Instagram, and I said, look, the crazy idea is building an literacy school 100% crowdfunded by Instagram. I had this idea, let's build a school, and let's have Instagram followers sponsor it. That was the idea. And so I'll just take photos, and again, that concept of how can I use my photographs to impact the communities around me? And so I started posting it, and in just a matter of 2 days, we received $17,000 from people from Instagram. Right? And then we start building the frame of the school. This was the frame of the school. And you look at this, is a very remote place. And then in a matter of like a week or so, we received $23,000 from the followers of Instagram, and we were able to fuel Daniel's helicopter for free out of Instagram. Just taking photos, just telling stories. So we're able to build a school. We started with about 120 kids. Some of the pictures of that school, we were able to build a school 100% funded by Instagram. 100% funded by social media, telling stories out on Instagram. See some of the mothers there are still breastfeeding because they're so young. They're married so young, but they're still studying in the school. Some of the photos there of our kids studying. In a matter of a year, we raised about 5 million pesos out of just 100% funded by Instagram. This was all funded with social media. And I was not paid doing this at all. The whole concept is, does that make you feel alive? And is it sustainable enough to do it? Yeah, sure. If it makes you feel alive, and it impacts the community around you. You need to find your purpose and how it affects you internally. So I was debating, should I teach you exposure and how to use your cameras manually? Maybe I'll just encourage you. Find your why. Why are you doing it? How does it affect you? And find your purpose and how you affect your communities around you. And I'm happy to tell you, we've already finished our second school. And the goal is to build more schools out in the jungles using social media. The photographs we do and take has currently affected around 135 projects around the world in 19 different countries. We travel around, BJ and I, using our photographs, photos, and pictures, helping build orphanages in Africa, in Ukraine, in Ethiopia, in Egypt, all these African countries, in Bangladesh. We have a blind school in Bangladesh, a deaf school in India, all these places, mostly fueled by photographs and videos. And I believe that's sustainable. And you can do the same too. Find your stoke, live with it, and live life for others. And I hope this encourages you to do something out there. Use your camera, and I promise you, it will create a lasting impact. You just don't want to be known as someone who has amazingly many likes on Facebook or Instagram. Be known as someone who has impacted communities around you. And so, thank you, Lolo, for giving us a chance. Erwan also for telling our stories. But also shout out to Trippy for the logo. They're sponsoring each of our teachers' laptops. So thank you so much. We're gonna go home soon, bringing laptops to each of my teachers, to each of our students. So we will be using the logo. Thank you so much for this opportunity. God bless you, everyone. If you have any questions, ask Erwan.
Wow, thank you so much, Jasper, you really have to put your heart and creativity